The great chamber of Fort Paul Ares was built for diplomacy, not for death. 40 floors of black stone and glass spiraled into the heavens on the frozen crust of Via 9, a neutral planet designated for high-value negotiations. The chamber's dome, plated with starlight alloy, shimmered with galaxies overhead like a cathedral built by ancient gods. Beneath it sat every species that mattered. Insectoid sovereigns, scaled warlords, fungal minds in gold-armored suits, and sleek diplomatic synths humming with artificial elegance. And right now, every single one of them was silent, because Earth had sent a man, not a message. He walked through the chamber doors like thunder wrapped in human flesh, 6'1", broad-shouldered, expression locked in a permanent snarl, his boots scarred from places no star map dared name. Navy SEAL, Special Recon, Unsought Black Operations, Commander Dane Rourke. He wore no medals, no armor, just worn fatigues, callous knuckles, and the Earth insignia burned into his forearm like a challenge. His skin held the tan of orbital radiation and the pale scars of blade and shrapnel. He didn't bow. He didn't pause. He stood in front of the speaker's platform like he was inspecting a battlefield, not attending a summit. And across from him, waiting in gleaming armor and unshakable arrogance, was Tak Virex, Galactic Concord soldier, 9 feet tall, skin like polished obsidian, eyes glowing like molten metal under pressure. The Council's favorite warhound, handpicked from the gene forges of Ozai Prime, engineered for battlefield supremacy. Tak wasn't just a soldier. He was a threat sculpted into humanoid form. He sneered down at Rourke with contempt that could burn through steel. "So," Tak said, voice amplified and laced with synth-tone dominance, "this is the best your species offers." No translator needed. The statement echoed in every language simultaneously. "Commander Rourke," a synth moderator buzzed, "you have been summoned to account for Earth's unsanctioned strike on the Zarnati colony of..." Tak held up a hand, silencing the machine with a single gesture. His eyes never left Rourke. "You burned 500 of our troops in a nuclear sweep. You detonated a forbidden weapon. You violated Concord law." Rourke exhaled once through his nose. And whispers hissed like blades through the air. Tak stepped closer. The ground seemed to tremble under his boots. Typical primate arrogance. He spat. "You apes mistake violence for strength." Then, without warning, he slapped Rourke. A crack tore through the chamber. It sounded like thunder splitting a steel drum. Loud, violent, final. The room froze. Delegates gasped. Advisors blinked. The insectoid monarch of Cal clicked her mandibles once and recoiled. Even the battle synth station to the exits twitched with uncertainty. Rourke hadn't moved. He stood exactly where he had been. His head had turned. Barely. A thin red line traced his cheekbone. He blinked once, slow. Then, without emotion, he looked up at Tak and said, "Bad move." And then he moved. The first strike was invisible. Tak's jaw snapped sideways with a wet crunch. Blood arced across the floor in a fine red mist. He stumbled back, eyes wide, then the second hit landed. An upward palm. Fast. Brutal. It connected under Tak's chin with bone-shattering force. There was a crack like glass shattering inside concrete. Tak's skull caved inward. The top of his head split. Clean and terrible, like a melon smashed against rebar. Bone fragments sprayed the marble floor. His eyes rolled. Knees buckled. And the genetically perfected warrior of Ozai Prime collapsed into a twitching mass of twitching limbs and spilling brain matter. Time, 2 seconds. Result, annihilation. Rourke stood over the corpse, silent. Then, slowly, methodically, he walked to the dais, pulled down the Galactic Concord flag, the silver and gold banner fluttering above Tak's body. He wiped his bloody hand on it and dropped it over the shattered head like a use rag. "Next," he said, turning to the room. No one answered. No one moved. The delegates sat frozen, watching this primitive human stand victorious over a post-gene soldier. Everything they thought they knew about Earth, its place, its power, its people, had just been rewritten with 2 fists and a corpse. And standing off to the side, behind a wall of panicked aides and flickering data screens, was Sylvain. Slim, silver-haired, delicate-featured, barely 20. a Zarnati junior linguist wearing a translator's insignia and a look of absolute horror. Oh, was it all? He had been born in orbital luxury, trained in court language, and taught from childhood that Earth was a failed experiment in bipedal aggression, useful for menial tasks and ground-level warfare. He had been told humans were wild dogs pretending to be wolves. And yet here, in this room, among titans and apex species and genetically immortal dynasts, the only one standing, breathing, defiant, was a man named Rourke. Sil could not look away. Not from the red smear on Rourke's jaw, not from the way he stood like a weapon that chose not to fire, not from the sheer, unrepentant defiance in his ice-blue eyes. Guards! A delegate finally choked, voice cracking. Arrest him. But none moved. The battle sense at the chamber's edge remained still. Their targeting systems calculated, analyzed, and concluded the same thing. Engaging would mean death. Rourke smirked. Just barely. That's what I thought. He turned and walked away, leaving blood on the polished floor, boot prints fading into silence. Behind him, the corpse of Tak Virex twitched once, then went still. And in that moment, Sylvain's world shifted, because something inside him, quiet, hidden, afraid, whispered, "This is the future, not the councils, not the protocols, not the immortal symphony of alien bureaucracy. Just this man. This human, with violence in his bones and vengeance in his stride." And Syl didn't know it yet, but that moment, that slap, that kill, was the beginning of Earth's war, and he had just become a part of it. The silence after a public execution doesn't vanish. It lingers. It sticks to the skin like blood you can't wash off. Even days later, Sylvain still heard it. The moment Tak Virex's skull split, and the chamber full of galactic royalty chose not to act. Not because they were merciful, but because they were afraid. He'd watched the footage on repeat in the days after. Not the galactic feeds. They sanitized it, scrubbed the sound, cut the kill. But the underground channels got it raw. Full audio, full gore, full impact. You could feel the slap, the pop of bone, the kill in real time. 2 seconds of absolute, primal clarity. The Concorde spun it as a fluke. Human aggression. A regrettable incident. Syl knew better. So did the streets. They called him the Skullbreaker now. Rourke. Earth shame turned myth. And despite everything Syl had been taught, protocol, culture, diplomacy, he couldn't stop watching. That man should have been dead. The Concorde had assassinated rogue warlord for less. But days passed. Then weeks. Rourke didn't hide. He sent invitations. Not digital. Not encoded. Physical. Thin strips of skin-colored polymer peeled from some poor bastard hand, burned with the words, "You want me? Come talk." The message was clear. Rourke wasn't afraid. And more dangerous still, he wasn't alone. Syl had been trained for peace. Polyglot in 12 dialects. Court-mannered. Beautiful, soft-spoken, and irrelevant. But when the message came, delivered via a severed tongue stuffed in the speaker's tube, he didn't report it. He packed a bag, hid his badge, and left. The drop zone was a mining world on the edge of nothing. Zoriel 5, atmosphere barely breathable, wind like razors, sky that never turned blue. Syl landed at dusk, heart pounding, coat too thin. And there, in the stormlight and dust, stood the man. Same boots, same jaw, same look like he was weighing the planet and finding it lacking. Rourke didn't speak right away. He lit a cigarette. Exhaled. "You came alone." Syl nodded. "They think I'm in medbay. Psych evil." Rourke cracked a grin. "They're not wrong." The shuttle took off without them. Sand ripped sideways across the airfield. And then it was just the two of them. A man shaped like war. And a twink translator who had no idea what he was about to become. "Why me?" Syl asked, voice hoarse. Rourke turned and walked. "Because you didn't flinch." They rode out in silence, an old Earth vehicle, tracked wheels, heavy armor. No AI, no Concorde signal, pure manual, the kind of machine built for surviving a war that hadn't happened yet. Inside, Syl asked questions. Rourke didn't dodge. The Zarnati strike on New Riga hadn't been an accident. The Concorde had authorized it. Tactical pressure. Humanity needed reminding. The High Speaker had said, off record, reminding that Earth was still a junior partner. That too much fire, too much willpower, made them unpredictable, dangerous. So they killed 1 million, burned them alive in a gravity-crush burst. Sil had seen the photos. Families frozen mid-scream, skull fused into street steel, entire cities turned into black glass. And Earth, they retaliated with silence, until Rourke. Sil was shaking now, not from fear, from the way the pieces fit too easily. You were sent, he asked. That wasn't freelance. Rourke glanced at him. Kid, I was made. He reached under the dashboard and yanked a case out, simple, steel, locked with a biometric chip. He flipped it open. 5 small vials, each the color of dried blood, sat nestled inside like sleeping gods. Project Phobos, Rourke said. Special Forces augmentation, Earthside, neural liquefaction to amplify adrenal responses, bone restitching tech, cortical pain inhibitors, all illegal by Concord Code, all greenlit after New Riga. Sil stared. You're not a man. Rourke's face didn't change. Not anymore. They reached the compound that night, carved into a mountain, shielded with old stealth mesh and ghost tag coordinates. Inside, silence. No teams. No command. Just a war room built for one. Screens showed dozens of faces. Alien, human, hybrid, each marked. Targets, senators, generals, CEOs, names Sil recognized. This is revenge. No, Rourke said. This is a purge. He tapped one photo. Volus Tech, a Zanati senator with 8 arms and a smile like an open wound. The one who signed off on the New Riga strike. The one who toasted the ashes. His first. Where? Vashel Drift. Sil blinked. You're going to storm a pleasure station? With what? Me and your fists. Rourke handed him a gun. You've got better aim than most of your kind. Sil looked down at the weapon. Sleek, black, lightweight, death disguised as elegance. I don't kill. You will. He didn't argue. Couldn't, because the man across from him had broken a godlike warrior's skull with his bare hands and didn't sleep after. There was no pleading with that kind of gravity. By the time they reached Vashel Drift, Sil had stopped dreaming. The station floated in orbit over a gold-lit planet, wrapped in orbiting rings of artificial moonlight. It looked like peace. It smelled like rot. Inside, alien elites sipped rare liquors and traded flesh like currency. They walked in through the front entrance. No disguises. No signal dampeners. No lies. Rourke in full view. Sil beside him. The guards recognized him. They reached for weapons. They didn't finish the motion. Rourke moved. Fast. Brutal. A skull cracked against the wall. A windpipe folded under a knee. One was slammed into the floor so hard the tile shattered. The last begged. Rourke didn't listen. They stepped over the corpses and into the lounge. Volus Tech looked up mid-sit. 8 eyes. 1 second of recognition. Then panic. The senator bolted. 4 arms flailing, 2 reaching for his personal guards. Too late. Rourke slammed one through a glass table, grabbed the other's spine and yanked upward. Blood sprayed like mist from a broken pipe. Screams ripped through the chamber. Volus begged in 4 languages. Promised information. Immunity. Secrets. Rourke tore his head clean off. Sil was shaking, chest heaving. Blood in his mouth. He hadn't been touched, but he felt it. The heat. The terror. The clarity. Rourke toned and tossed the senator's head like trash. Looked at Sil. Still with me? Sil nodded, because something in him, something fragile and treacherous, wanted more. Not peace. Not survival. Power. The shuttle lifted off minutes later. Vashel Drift burning behind them. Concord emergency signals screaming across the system. The bounty on Rourke's head doubled by the time they hit warp. Sil leaned back, gun still in his lap. Face pale. What now? Rourke checked his arm. Now they send someone to kill us. He grinned. I hope they send 12. Sil stared at the stars. He wasn't sure who he was anymore, but he was sure of one thing. He would never go back. They came at night, not the way assassins used to come. Not blades and shadow, not poison and wine. They came like machines because they were void razors, the Concord's elite kill units. Half synthetic, half starved death incarnate. 12 of them, dropped from orbit in burn pods that screamed through atmosphere like comets. Each pod cracked open on impact, spilling armored giants into the snow. Unnumbered, faceless, programmed. Their target, Commander Dane Rourke, and whoever stood beside him. The mountain shook when they landed. Old walls cracked. Lights flickered. Sylvain stood barefoot in the corridor, heart pounding through bone. His hands still smelled like the senator's blood. He hadn't slept in 2 days. He barely blinked now. In the distance, one of the compound sentry drones screamed, then went silent mid-transmission. Rourke appeared behind him like a shadow, shirtless, calm. "They're early," he muttered, tossing Syl a sidearm. "That's good." Syl caught it. No questions. No panic. Just a cold clarity that came after too many dead, too fast. How many? More than enough. Alarms triggered. Motion sensors lit up across the walls. Rourke moved like a soldier remembering an old rhythm, dragging open a hidden wall panel. Inside, weapons. Real ones. Slug throwers. Blades. Shot charges. Old Earth war gear that didn't rely on AI or sync chips. He tossed Syl a carbine. "Stay close. If I die..." "You're not dying." Rourke looked at him then. Something flickered behind those blue eyes. Not warmth, not softness, but recognition. The kind that passes between two people already halfway dead. The first razor came through the south hall, blades for hands, face welded shut with black metal, feet digging through stone. Rourke didn't slow. He moved straight into the charge, ducked the slash, and punched. It wasn't a punch like normal men threw. It was an iron forge hammer backed by liquefied neural enhancement and a refusal to die. The razor's face caved in with a metallic shriek. Sparks. Bone. Fluid. It dropped, twitching, still trying to process combat protocols as its brain spilled out. 11 left. Syl dropped to one knee and fired. The carbine roared. A razor staggered. Took 3 rounds to the throat. It toned, and Rourke was already there. Elbow. Knee. Blade. Another one down. They fought through corridors choked with smoke. Flashbangs lit up the stone. Metal screamed on metal. Blood and coolant pooled at their feet. Every time Syl thought it was over, more came. 2 razors flanked from above, wall-mounted. They dropped in sync, dual helix blade spinning. Syl rolled, fired upward, caught one in the joint. Rourke leapt, tackled the second in midair, drove it through a steel pillar. Sparks flew. Syl's carbine clicked empty. He switched to the pistol. There was no more thinking now. Just action. The kind only death teaches. The compound burned behind them. Systems fried. Rooms collapsed. Rourke took a blade to the side. Blood soaked his ribs. He didn't flinch. He ripped the blade out, turned it, and buried it in the razor's neck. 7 down. 5 more entered from the blast doors. Taller. Heavier. One had a railgun welded to its spine. Another carried a hammer the size of Syl's chest. And still, Rourke charged. He slammed into the biggest one's shoulder first, took the hammer to the back, and used the momentum to break the razor's knee. Then, as it fell, he crushed its head with one boot. "Down!" he yelled. Syl hit the floor as gunfire raked the air. The railgun razor opened fire, rounds tearing into walls, shredding consoles. Rourke kicked the dead razor's body into the line of fire. Bullets slammed into it. The second it hesitated, Rourke was already vaulting over the body and into the razor's chest. He tore its faceplate off with his bare hands and shoved a grenade into the soft circuitry beneath. Boom! 3 more fell in quick succession. The last one didn't charge. It stood still, watching. Then it did something none of the others had. It spoke. "You are obsolete," it said. Rourke spat blood. Says a toaster. "I am Iteration 17. Apex Unit. You are an authorized organic." "Funny," Rourke growled, dragging a combat blade from the wall. "I still crush your friends." The razor moved faster than anything Syl had seen. Rourke met it head-on. It wasn't a fight. It was war compressed into 10 seconds of blinding violence. Metal tore. Flesh split. The razor landed punches at cracked stone. Rourke took them, spat blood, and answered with fists designed by trauma. They crashed through a wall. Sparks. Screams. Wind howled through the compound now. Open air. Snow rushing in. Syl limped after them. Blood in his ears. The carbine gone. Just the sidearm in his will. He found them on the outer ledge. A cliff. Rourke pinned. The razor above him, blade in hand, ready to strike. No! Syl screamed. The razor turned, just an inch. Rourke used it. He slammed his forehead into the razor's face, grabbed the blade, drove it sideways into its own shoulder, wrenched it backward. The thing screamed. Then Rourke grabbed its head and broke it. Not fast, not clean. He peeled the metal apart, muscles straining, eyes wild, blood pouring down his arms. When it died slow. Rourke stood over the twitching husk, chest heaving. Syl couldn't move. The snow blew hard now, storms rolling over the peaks. You okay? Rourke asked. Syl nodded. You're bleeding. So are you. They both laughed. It wasn't joy. It wasn't madness. It was survival's twisted echo. Behind them, the compound burned. The dead stacked higher than any story the Concord would allow to spread. They'll send more, Syl said. Good. They'll send everything. Let them. Syl looked up at him. This man, this monster, this fury wrapped in skin, and knew, down to his bones, that the war hadn't begun. It was still waking up. They didn't flee after the Razor massacre. They buried the dead in the ice. By hand, Rourke's way, digging through frozen stone with steel-tipped gloves, shoulders soaked in blood and melted snow. Sylvain felt something shatter inside him. Not break, not crack, shatter. He didn't know how long they worked. The sun never rose here, just endless twilight wrapped in storm clouds. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. When the last cybernetic skull was crushed and buried beneath meters of rock, they walked back into the ruin of the compound, walls half-blown, ash in the air, sparks crawling along busted panels. Rourke pulled out a dented comms receiver from under rubble, flipped open a side panel, and hardwired it to his wrist console. Syl watched, slumped on a broken pipe, arm shaking, blood crusted to skin. I don't get it, he said. We killed them. All 12. Why aren't we moving? Because they'll assume we ran. You want to be found. I want them to bring the next piece. Syl frowned. Next piece of what? Rourke glanced back, and for the first time in weeks, Syl saw something new in his eyes. Not anger, not thrill, calculation. Concord's done sending machines. They'll send someone real. A beat passed. Wind howled through the cracks in the compound. Something metal fell and clanged like a bell from the past. Who? Syl whispered. Rourke smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. His name's Vask. Syl didn't recognize it. He trained me, Rourke said, and then tried to erase me. Why? Because I kept waking up after the drugs wore off. Syl's breath caught. You're saying he's like you. Rourke's voice dropped to a whisper. No, I'm like him. That night, Syl didn't sleep. He sat beside the makeshift fire, watching the snow drift into the shattered ceiling. Rourke had disappeared into the lower levels, prepping, planning. Syl could hear the grinding of old tech, the hum of war gear reactivating after years offline. He thought back to the first time they met. The blood on the Senate floor, the skull crack, the terror in the crowd. He'd thought Rourke was a rogue weapon, a freak, a one-man vengeance machine. But now, he wasn't so sure. This was deeper. This was Warcraft. By morning, Rourke had armored up. Old earth plating, matte black, gutted of ID tags. The only insignia, a red mark scorched into the shoulder, unreadable, angry. He handed Syl a new rifle. Sleek, long-barreled, modified for zero-drift precision. What is this? Syl asked, turning it over. Rourke locked eyes with him. Yours. You earned it. Syl almost laughed. I'm not like you. You're exactly like me. You just haven't broken yet. A signal hit the console. Encrypted. Ancient code. Only 3 words pulsed across the screen, glitching as if written in pain. He comes alone. Sil swallowed. Rourke stood still, head tilted, reading it a second time, then a third. He nodded once. Good. Hours passed. Then the storm came. Not a normal one. The sky split open like something bled across the stars, and the clouds didn't roll. They peeled. The snow stilled. Then reversed, like the world knew something monstrous had arrived. Sil felt it before he saw it. Pressure in the chest. Not fear, not adrenaline. Something older, primal, like gravity itself decided to bow. Then the man stepped through the broken gate. Tall, clean, no armor, no weapon, just boots, gloves, a long coat fluttering behind him, soaked with meltwater and stitched with black runes. His face was calm, too calm. Rourke walked out to meet him, 10 feet apart. Sil kept behind cover, rifle drawn, heart like thunder in his throat. Vosk, Rourke said. Commander. I'm not that anymore. I know. Sil could feel it. The energy, like the very air flinch around them. You trained me to be a weapon, Rourke said. And when I didn't break, you ran. Vosk's voice was like rain on steel. Smooth, cold. I didn't run. I waited. Rourke cracked his neck. Well, he muttered. Wait's over. They moved at the same time. Not like men. Like concept of violence made real. Sil barely saw it. Just streaks of black and white, shockwaves tearing through the ground, stones splitting from the force of their blows. Rourke swung first. Vosk caught it, turned it, slammed a palm into Rourke's chest, sending him skidding backward across the snow, carving a trench with his boots. Rourke launched back. Hammer fists, elbow strikes, a shoulder check that would have pulverized a tank. Vosk dodged it all. Effortless. But then, Rourke cut. His hand dipped low. Blade out. A flash. Blood. Vosk staggered. Rourke followed. Knee to the stomach. Headbutt. Blade to the side. Vosk dropped to a knee. Sil held his breath. And then Vosk smiled. Finally, he whispered, You're awake. His hand snapped upward, too fast. Rourke flew backward. Not thrown. Pulled. Vosk had implants. Deep ones. Magnetic synapse pools. Tactical field enhancers. Illegal ones. Ones that crush tanks like paper. Rourke hit the far wall hard enough to dent the stone. Blood everywhere. Vosk approached slowly. You're good, he said. But you were never me. He raised a fist. Sil fired. The round caught Vosk in the thigh. He spun, instantly, eyes flaring. Sil didn't flinch. He fired again. Vosk deflected the shot. Barely. The third one clipped his shoulder. Bone showed. You trained him too well, Sil whispered. Vosk laughed. A low, cold rasp. He stepped toward Sil. Then Rourke rose. Face blooded. Eyes swollen shut. Ribs broken, but standing. And behind him, a charge pack. Red. Glowing. You forgot, Rourke growled. I don't stop. He triggered the pack. The blast wasn't fire. It was force, raw, concussive, an ancient Earth demo charge modified for maximum internal rupture. Vosk vanished in the explosion. Sil flew backward, slammed into a console, saw stars, then nothing. When he woke, Rourke was dragging him through the wreckage. Smoke curled up. Vosk's body was nowhere in sight. He's dead! Sil rasped. Rourke didn't answer. He just said, This war's not over. And Sil believed him, because even through the blood and broken ribs, Rourke was smiling. The body they pulled from the crater wasn't dead. What was left of Vosk should have been ash. His arm was gone. Half his face peeled back like scorched paper. His ribs were bone shards stitched by twitching cybernetics. But his eyes, those eyes, burned. He was smiling. Rourke stood above him, blood dripping from both fists, breath fogging in the cold. You lost, he said. Vosk coughed. Wires shifted in his throat like serpents. I was the opening note. What? They are coming. You think this war's between you and me? A hiss. A grin. You were always a pawn. Sil stepped forward, rifle aimed, safety off. Talk. Voss didn't flinch. You think they send the razors because of some senator? That was theater. They needed to draw you out. Him. He nodded at Rourke. The last ghost. The original fracture. You're not supposed to exist. Rourke didn't speak. He didn't blink. Voss kept going. The Concord's built on silence, order, suppression, but every lie needs a grave. That's you. You were the burial mistake. Rourke leaned down slowly. Who's coming? Voss laughed, blood and static. Not who. What? And then he bit down. A soft click. Rourke tried to stop him. Too late. Vosk's skull erupted from within. Implosion, not explosion. A Concord failsafe. Brain matter sprayed the wall in steam and sparks. Sil stepped back. Shit! Rourke said nothing. Just turned. Already moving. Already calculating. Downstays. The terminal flickered to life. Red signal. Unauthorized. A planet-wide override. Sil watched in silence as lines of old Earth military code scrolled across the screen. Backdoor pings, orbital alignment requests, and something far worse. Sol Protocol // Black Vault code unlocked. Concord asset reclamation. Ghost Zero identified. Commencing total purge sequence. He stared. They are wiping the sector. Rourke nodded. And they'll do it quietly. No broadcasts. No warnings. No survivors. Sil looked up at him. So we stopped them. Rourke locked eyes. We finished this. 3 hours later, the sky broke. Not with soldiers. Not ships. With an arc. Sil had never seen one before. Most hadn't. Concord Arc-class orbitals weren't warships. They were weapons in ship's clothing, 30 miles long, with dark matter cores and atmosphere-cleaving ion rails. They didn't land. They descended. The clouds parted as it pierced them. Slow, deliberate, majestic, and terrifying. At its core, a spearhead hangar. Rourke stared at it from the ridge, wind biting at his face. Armor sealed. Rifle slung. Sil beside him, jaw tight, cloak fluttering behind him like torn flags. You said they wanted you silent, Sil said. They tried. And now I speak. They moved. Down the ridge, through the storm, across the scarred battlefield where razors had died and shadows still lingered. As the arc opened beneath the clouds, its internal hangars blossomed like steel jaws, deploying the real purge units. Not razors, ghost killers, pure black, human-shaped, 7 feet tall, wrapped in no field tech, no sound, no scent, made to erase men like Rourke from memory and time. The first one landed 20 meters ahead. Sil fired. The round passed through it. No blood. No sparks. It shimmered, then vanished. Rourke didn't slow. He ran. Straight into the kill zone. The ambush triggered. 4 ghost killers appeared, materializing mid-motion, blades already swinging. Rourke moved like a god of war reborn. Duck. Twist. Elbow shatter. Blade intercept. Sil saw one swing toward Rourke's blind side. He fired without aiming. The shot cracked the ghost killer's shoulder. It hissed, almost human, then twisted toward him. Rourke finished the others. Sil ducked and rolled as the last one lunged. He came up fast, jammed the rifle into its jaw, and fired point blank. It dropped. They moved again, toward the beacon tower, a relic from the pre-Concord days. Perched at the peak of the mountain, a relic signal relay buried in frost and forgotten by history. That's where Rourke was taking him. What's up there? Sil asked, breath sharp, lungs burning. Rourke answered without turning. Proof. They reached the base as a storm split fully open, lightning raking the ground. Concord dropships spilled out of the arc now. Dozens. Hundreds. The purge had begun. Inside the tower, Rourke tore off a panel. Ancient wires. Bone chips. A heart monitor. A data chip the size of a tooth. He pulled it out, slid it into his gauntlet. A projection shimmered. Video. Old Earth military lab. Blood on white floors. A boy screaming. Rourke, younger, strapped to a table, fists clenched so hard they bled through steel. Over him, Vosk, smiling, and behind him, a Concord senator, the same one Sil saw Rourke kill weeks ago. Sil blinked. He funded this. Rourke nodded. They all did. The camera panned to a door. Another child dragged in, half dead, pale, crying. It was Sil. He staggered backward. No, you don't remember, Rourke said. But you were there. Sil's hand shook. They said I was a hacker from Vesku. They said. They lied. You were one of the candidates. You survived their first wave of testing. Then you ran. No, Sil whispered. Yes. The tower shook. Dropships touched down around the base. Dozens of ghost killers fanned out. Sil looked up at Rourke. What do we do? Rourke inserted the chip into the beacon core. We show the galaxy. Outside, the Concord sent a final ultimatum. Surrender the ghost. Surrender the tower. Final strike imminent. Inside, the beacon surged. Rourke turned to Sil. You have the file. Sil nodded. You remember how to encrypt it. Sil's voice was steady now. I do. Then run. I'm not leaving you. You are. Rourke locked eyes. Because I'm not done fighting. Sil hesitated, just once. Then he turned and ran, vaulting out the rear service chute as the beacon lit the clouds. Rourke stepped to the edge. The Concord strike came. A railgun spear from the arc above, bright as godlight, loud as judgment. It hit the tower dead center. A crater swallowed the mountain, but not before the broadcast went out. Across the galaxy, every screen flickered, and then showed the truth. The experiments, the murders, the files, the screams, the names. Sil made it to the ridge in time to see the arc pause, wobble, then begin to ascend, retreat. He dropped to his knees, panting. Far below, the crater smoked, but no body remained, just ash, metal, and silence. For weeks after, systems burned. Riots erupted on 12 Concord planets. 2 senators disappeared. 1 system declared independence. And in the dark zones, where Concord power was weakest, there were rumors of a man in black armor, with a broken eye socket, and hand that once crushed a skull in 2 seconds flat. No name, no rank, just whispers. The Skullbreaker lives.